Hi everyone, this is Ms. Borgen again, and today I'm going to talk more about the PWOP and the IPP, specifically how we use the IPP to help us find information. So hopefully by now, through pre-search and mind mapping, you've gained a little bit of context around your topic, and you're ready to move on to the next step of the IPP, which is experience. This is where you really jump in and get your hands dirty with research. This video is also going to introduce you to some of the resources that the Prep Library has on the Middle Ages. We do have some learning targets for you. We really want to make sure that you can look through a big bunch of resources and find the information that you need, and that also you can use a wide variety of formats to do so. So, ebooks, online databases, websites, and even physical books. Those are a form of technology too. So in our last session together, you spent some time gathering context and using a mind map to help you organize yourself. On the left is the example that I showed you in class, and then of course on the right is the infamous PWOP note sheet. So each source you use, be it website, book, or ebook, should have a corresponding note sheet with information about your author, your notes on the subject, and also the source citation. And your collegiate teacher will go over this in more depth. Of course, in order to create a note sheet, you're going to have sources. So keywords are a really huge part of the research you're going to do to find these sources. Keywords are just sort of a fancy word to say the words you're using when you're searching for something. So when you create your mind maps, you kind of put the broadest possible phrase in that middle there to describe your topic. And then, of course, you kept track of alternate names and other vocabulary kind of on the side box. So today what we're going to be doing is kind of the opposite. We're going to be expanding your search term list using some strategic techniques. So on the left over here on this slide, you can see what we call sort of a natural language search. So if I was asking a person about this or writing about it in my paper, this is how I might choose to phrase it. Computers really don't care about natural language, so when you're doing your research on a computer, your job is to really pull out the most important words from your topic and search using those. And I've highlighted them in green here on the slide. When I did a quick sort of initial search on women and chivalry and Middle Ages, I came up with a whole new list of search terms here on the right. So some are related words, some are specific names or places, others are phrases particular to the time. So as you research, your list of keywords is going to grow and grow from being kind of these few basic words up here into an entire large vocabulary. So now we're going to get into some of the specific resources that we have here at the Prep Library. This is the first one I'm going to demonstrate for you, the Gale ebooks that we have. So we've already seen this in class very briefly, so I'm just going to do a small search on chivalry and show you exactly what you can do with a resource once you've found it. So if I type in chivalry in this top box here, it's going to give me a giant list of resources from all different kinds of books, and I'm just going to pick the top one here. And there's a lot I can do with this, so if I decide to use this in my paper, I can email it to myself, I can download it, I can print it, I can save it in a little folder. You can also, if you want to, if you work better listening to something, you can download the MP3 and it will have like a little robot voice read it to you, which is pretty cool. Another really cool thing with this resource is you can take notes. So if you happen to have a Google account, which I think a lot of you do, what you can do is when you find some text that you want to sort of save or make a note of, you can highlight it. So see, I highlighted it there. If you click on highlight, you pick a color, maybe add some notes in here, and save it. And what it will do is it will automatically drop it, if you're signed in up here, into your Google Drive. So if you want some more help with that, let me know. I can get you started with that. It's kind of a cool little tool there. Other than that, this one, there's lots of places to look here. If you want to look in the book itself, you can. You can click on this, or you can look at the table of contents. It's got a giant list of all the different articles in this book. That's kind of the GVRL in a nutshell. And let's go back to our next source. So our next source is obviously library books. So we have a whole cart of library books we've been kind of pulling from to help you with. But we also have a library catalog. So you can search these using our Destiny library catalog. So this catalog only searches books that we have in the library, as well as our ebooks, and then also a few websites. So let me give you a little demonstration. So if you are in our catalog and see I'm searching chivalry here, not only will it sort of list for you the books that we have, and it's got this little handy cover thing here, but it also will give you websites, which is really nice. All of these are vetted by librarians and other people who sort of run the Destiny site, so you're welcome to use any of these in your research and trust them. Our next source is the History Study Center, which is just a database. So a lot like the Gale ebooks, it contains all kinds of different articles from books, newspapers, magazines, you name it. And what you'll see in these databases is that they have kind of the same basic functionality. So you'll be able to cite this article, print it, email it to yourself. And what they like to do is they like to group your results into different little areas. So you can see I have some study units here, and these are really nice because they lay out information in a really attractive and easy to navigate way, and I'll show you one in a minute. But then down here below you can see here we've got historical documents, maps, reference, multimedia, so that means like videos or pictures, and then journals, which are more sort of scholarly works. You can see the study unit for British society and culture in the Middle Ages here. It gives you all kinds of different things here. So they've kind of pulled it all together and packaged it really nicely, so it's easy to navigate. So if you find a study unit for your particular topic, I highly recommend using it. Other than that, there are some other sites that I've listed under the experience box on our PWOP website. I've sort of checked them out, made sure they're credible, they look pretty good, so you're welcome to use these if you want to. The list is not written in stone though, so if you happen to discover something amazing, please let me know and I will happily add it to the list so your peers can access it too. Before I close, let's talk for a minute about Google. So Google is a wonderful tool. I use it literally every day, probably every hour that I'm awake. It's invaluable. So, however, when you're researching, you have to be really careful what information you trust when you search from Google. Anyone can publish anything on the web, so often it's really hard to know if information is coming from a trustworthy source. So what we'd ask of all of you is to try the resources we mentioned previously before turning to Google. And if you do use a Googled website, be really ready to justify on your note sheet why the source is trustworthy. And of course, if you have trouble finding sources with anything else that I mentioned, come see me or Mrs. Lovejoy, and we're so happy to help you out. Last things, before your next library session, make sure you have the mind map you started during our last session, because that's going to have some helpful info that's going to remind you where you are in your research process, as well as the resources video sheet that you completed after watching this. And your collegiate teacher will help you figure out where that is. So while we're all done, see you soon.